I don't know. But right now, all the veterans that we have right now, I found out that the younger veterans, they weren't even told to go record their DD 214. I remember when I went in, they told me when I was getting out, when you get back, make sure you record this. From what I understand, they're not even telling the younger ones now. They don't even tell them anything.
It's so
So,
sad. I mean, I'm just like I'm just been blown away by as we well, once again, I want you to find I want you to find this what I love about you is how you break up words. I come from that conspiracy household. So my whole life,
conspiracy.
yeah, when I was little, I heard about the chemtrails. People just started learning about them 10 years ago. So this is something I've learned since I was a child. So it's ironic just to see and watch everything finally come to pass in front of my own eyes. Even when I was young, I'd be like, stop talking like this. Oh my God, can I just have a normal life? Come in to the house from school and have cupcakes waiting for me or something instead of being told, did you see the chemtrails out there? So here I
Yeah,
am today,
yeah.
like, wow, everything that I have learned, it's like happening. But let's break down the word there,
The
Bob.
word conspiracy.
Conspiracy, yes.
Conspiracy is a fascinating word. So if you look at your Constitution, it says piracy on the high seas. Well, con, the base of the word con means to contract or to adjoin or to work together. Piracy, okay, when you're a pirate, you are committing a theft or a nefarious violence or an act to achieve something that you want. So when you take the word conspiracy, all right, what you're actually saying is more than one person working together to do something nefarious to another individual. That is what conspiracy means. It is literally the basis of where courts came from. It was how you determined if a crime had ever been committed because people work together. They call that conspiracy. When you go to a court and the facts are determined, that is called a fact at law. We don't have any fact courts, but conspiracy theory means that you have a suspicion that somebody is doing things nefarious or breaking the law. And in case we haven't noticed from looking around right now,
It's a
pretty much
lot of laws been
everybody we
broken.
thought, like everyone that was considered possibly under honor, has been breaking every law they can find. So conspiracy theory means that there's probably a crime that's been committed.
All right, so we have a lot of comments, and they're kind of the same comments, but written a little differently. So some of Peter, he had just made a comment. Can you go back and break it down? What about veterans and home of record? And also, we got someone else saying, I'm a little confused. Another person, Lori, said, I got a copy of my DD 214, but wasn't told I have to have it recorded at court, nor that I had to have it federal BC. Don't you see it to be a
Yeah.
source means that you are not in the corporation or in the military? So basically, can we even make it more simpler? Can you kind of break it down a little bit more easier for the ones that are a little confused that are in the military that got their DD 214s and kind of explain to them what they were.
Okay, so the DD 214, if you really look at the document is a certificate of discharge from active duty. Basically, what it is it's an announcement that you have been discharged. When you return or you don't have to go back to where your home of record was. It's wherever your final destination is where you go to. When you get there, you're supposed to take that document to the local courthouse and have it recorded. Now, what they're going to do it because they know what they're supposed to do with it. But in reality, what we're telling you the technical details of what they're doing with it. They are recording it on an official land record. Okay? But it's not your return It is the announcement that you are returning. Okay. You still have to get through the probate court, which those courts are not functional right now. But these things have to be done. So when the probate courts open up under the U.S. Army, this stuff will, the rest of it will get done. But the DD 214 has to be recorded on a land record. It is the announcement that the individual who left America and went to the continental United States and then went overseas is en route back to the land record, and it connects the following documents to that. Most people were not told they are supposed to record this thing, and VA has been basically told not to tell you, which is coming out of the federal government and Congress. The federal birth certificate is another issue right now. I just had a case where I filed a case to try and get my federal birth certificate, because apparently, from what I understand, the only way to get your hands on the federal birth certificate is you have to work for the federal government, and you have to get on a private intranet system and get a copy of your federal birth certificate. That birth certificate is how they've been holding us. They've been holding us basically so that they can exploit us it has to do with jurisdiction. They're keeping us under federal jurisdiction by holding that birth certificate and not releasing it to us so we can go have it recorded.
All right, so Peter's asking another question, which is another great question. We went over a lot of this today, so I'm sorry for the ones that are coming back from today
That's
that
all right.
we're repeating this, but at least this is good, because the goal is we want to get it in there, so in your brain,
Right.
so you guys have this knowledge. So he is now asking Peter M., what purpose does it serve, and what about people who only served stateside?
Okay, so you didn't serve stateside. Technically, when you went through MEPS, you were moved out of quote unquote America. You were moved into the continental United States. That's why if you're active duty and you got your sheet and you got your dream sheet, it says CONUS or OCONUS. You were either CONUS, continental United States, or you were OCONUS, other than continental United States. You went overseas, right? So you were actually, even if you were in the States, you were actually not where you were in the public. You were still outside of the public, which is the change. You're leaving the public, going to the continental United States.
So once again, I highly recommend you go to his website, our unitedrepublic.com, OUR,
Yep.
our unitedrepublic.com. And for many of you that are watching, if you could please share this to your page, that would be great. Our goal right now is to get this out there as fast as we can. We want to work together as a team and help bring the Republic back again as fast as possible. Everyone's working overtime, over speed, and there is so much to learn. Trust me, I'm still learning. I'm like blown away by the stuff that I'm reading, and even what President Trump has been putting in his executive orders. I mean, they're like one after another. He's just putting them out there. It's like, holy cow. So even when you're reading them, it's plain as day, we're back in the Republic. So I would highly recommend you start reading what he's putting out there, and everything that you're hearing from Bob is going to make sense to you. You're going to be like, I've heard this before. Well, yeah, you heard it from him. He's explaining it to you. Peter said one more thing. Personally,
There's a good question.
Yes.
That's a good question. The one above it. Listen,
Okay, so,
they're not going to keep your DD 214.
okay, let's read
They're
the
going to
question.
take it.
This is why the court keeps your DD 214 and not the military. Why doesn't the military keep your DD 214?
They can't. You have to have your DD 214 on you. Okay? The court won't, when you go to the court and you record it, it's not going to get kept there. They're going to hand it to you. They're actually going to put like this paper strip across the top. They're going to tape it to it. And then what I recommend is that you get 5 certified copies that are actual certified copies from the county with that have the seal on there. Interestingly enough, when you actually get the certified copies, your social security number will be blacked out. There's a whole other reason why that's blocked out, because your social security number is not a social security number anymore. It's actually called a service number.
Yeah.
So, and we'll get into that. But but the recording, they're going to give it back to you. They're not keeping it. You have to keep that document on you. And if you don't, it's a pain in the butt to get another one.
And once again, if
So,
you go to his website, ourunitedrepublic.com, he has a
yep,
PDF in there that you can print from your computer, and it's step by step of what you do and how to do it. And
yep,
it can take up to a year. So you guys know it's not something you're going to do like that, but they will know what you're wanting. They will know
yeah.
when you go and file for
You
this.
start the process.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second.
So
All right. So,
I'm going to throw something else out there too. This is going to be kind of crazy. I'm just going to kind of get off the subject, but not off the subject. So Bob and I were talking last week, just so you guys kind of know. And, everyone I'm sure here has heard of QAnon, Q. And I saw something happen, and I'll get to that. So I asked Bob what he thought of Q, because, I'm seeing all these people, this has been going on for quite a few years now with Q. And Bob gave me his opinion on who he thought Q was. Well, I thought it was interesting because during the inauguration, during the scene when President Trump's family came in to sit down and they were waiting for President Trump to come, President Trump came and he stood there and he looked at everybody. He sat down, and how he does with his thumbs and his fingers, and he looks at everybody. And then he takes his finger and he does the Q sign in the air. He smiles and then he winks. I was like, what? Is he Q? What is he doing here? So my mind, of course, starts going crazy because I'm like, whoa, because he always gives you signs. And I love the game Clue. So I love riddles and rhymes and so I've always loved trying to figure out things and just because right now people can't just come out and tell you under what they're going through, but they are little by little, they're showing you, they're having other people tell you, and very soon it's going to just come off their own tongue. But do you want to go ahead and share with them, Bob, on who you think it is?
Okay, so yes, and I didn't really get into the whole Q or Nasera Jacera. I don't even know anything really about Nasera Jacera, but I happen to. People have asked me about Q, and I've come across it for a while, and I've kind of paid attention to it. Well, because I read a lot of books, I happened to run into this one book by Cicero, which was a Roman statesman who was put to death when the Roman Empire basically came online. Well, one of the books that I had was written by a guy named Quintus Curtius. And when I listened to the foreword, because I do Audible, I do a lot of Audible. I got 350 books on Audible. When I went to listen to the foreword of the book, the way he described himself, I'm like, wait a minute, this is Q. Like everything that everybody told me about, this is Q. So there was a website, and I went to this website. I believe it's called QCourteous.com. And come to find out, the gentleman is a federal attorney who is an ex-Marine who publishes philosophical books, like old Roman, Cicero, stuff like that, books. But everything lines up to that is who Q is this attorney out of Kansas who studies philosophy.
Well, I watched the inauguration and I was waiting for that day, and I watched everything because through the whole inauguration, he shows you what's happening. Even they brought the 1776 look back, during everything, even ending in the sword. Yeah, it's just like it's all there. But when he did the Q sign with his finger and he did that and he smiled and winked, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Okay, so is it you or who? So I think it's very interesting how so many people has their own theories. Some people think it's his son, Barron. Some people think it's President Trump, and some have talked about the guy from the Marine that you had just talked about as well. So it's very interesting to like who is it? I want to know. That's just the one that's driving me crazy. But and yes, they're right on. It's been accurate through the whole. And speaking of like the Nasera, that's another interesting thing. I think I sent you a copy of it today, Bob, that Elon Musk, don't quote me, but he put something out on X a few days ago because the whole IRS and how just the fraud, this is sick what they've done with this money, just absolutely disgusting. And basically stated, he suggested that there's a big tax refund coming back to all the American people. Well, apparently Trump kind of put out there and stated that this is what Elon has asked, and he said basically agreeing with Elon. So during the Nasera times back in the pandemic era, that's when I learned a lot about Nasera. This could really be happening. I mean, that's my opinion with the whole reset because of the cryptocurrency. When you guys want to really look at it with the fiat and the SWIFT system going into one money system throughout the world, and we're using crypto, we have to do the reset. And knowing with the Republic happening in March next month, and then we have the banks, all the banks in America has to line up with XRP to become one language in the banking system by March 10th is what they have. All the banks in America has to be lined up by March 10th. That I can see the reset taking place.
Yeah, March is going to be a huge month. If we're right, March 4th, that's what the 12th Amendment says. We're gonna know who they chose because he has to be chosen. And then if we're right about that, it's probably going to be March 21st is when the swearing in will be at the White House if it plays out that way. But everything looks like it's lining up. And like I said, there is a huge stadium facing the front door of the White House right now.
Yes.
And it's still there, and they built it. So some big event is going to happen at the White House, and I think it's going to happen on March 21st. So, and it has to do with the 12th Amendment.
Yeah. So, and for those that don't know the 12th Amendment, I would highly recommend you look that up. And speaking of the amendment, well, first of all, March is going to be huge. March is going to be huge, 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 huge in many, many ways, in great ways, positive ways. A lot of great things are happening. They're actually in the works now. But, you wanted to go over the 4 different constitutions covering the 4 different branches of democracy. A lot of people don't even know that there's 4 different branches to the Constitution.
Right. Well, and that's probably something to get to because you hear the word Constitution thrown around. I do want to answer one question. There was somebody asked Q who. It's Quintus Curtius, but I think the website's called QCurtius.com is where it'll be. But let's talk about the constitutions because they throw this whole constitution. It's the Constitution. There are many, many, many constitutions. Okay, so let's talk about the constitutions as they apply to America, United States of America, United States. All right. When you start at "We the People" and you get to the 10th Amendment, that is what's considered a American individual constitution. Okay. Now, an individual could be a group of people. That could be an individual, or it could be one individual human being. Okay. That is the American Constitution. When you go from "We the People" to the 12th Amendment, and the reason it's the 12th Amendment is because in 1803,
The 12th Amendment, which is the one we were just talking about, was the last amendment that was ratified by the American Continental Congress, or the American Grand Congress, after the Republic was established. That is the national constitution. Okay, so if you look at the Bill of Rights, if you ever read through the Bill of Rights, there were 12 bills of rights that were signed by George Washington. He was Deputy of Virginia and President. When he signed them, they were sealed by James Madison, because James Madison was acting Secretary of State, because Thomas Jefferson had not come back from France yet. James Madison sealed them. They recorded them at the clerk of the court in the White House, and then copies were sent to the states because they had to be ratified. We had a ratification process. George Washington did not sign a piece of legislation and all of a sudden that's the law. There was a ratification. That's why we have 10, even though 12 were sent out. Only 10 got ratified. That ratification process was a safety mechanism that was pulled out after the War of 1812 when the American Continental Congress was dissolved. Okay? So that is the national constitution. That national constitution runs from we the people to the 12th Amendment. After the usurpation in the War of 1812, so we get to 1814, and for those of you who are going to argue and say that didn't happen, you are more than welcome to go to the U.S. Senate website. Since 1814, there has been a president pro temp in place at the U.S. Senate. It is on their website. They have it plain as day. There was a permanent president pro temp in place since 1814. Go check it out yourself. So the U.S. Constitution, which is the U.S. Congress Constitution, which is the Constitution basically that's been added on, runs from we the people to the 27th Amendment. That is Congress's Constitution. So when you say U.S. Code, they are using that Constitution. Okay, that's the one they're using. That's how that is theirs. Okay, then you have the quote unquote federal Constitution. Well, the federal government doesn't appear to be using anything out of the Bill of Rights, and they don't appear to be using anything else. So the best we can determine is the Democratic Constitution runs from the 13th Amendment to the 27th Amendment. And it actually cuts out the entire rest of we the people all the way to Amendment 12. Believe it or not, after the 13th Amendment was passed, was the first time that the term U.S. citizen was ever used. There were no U.S. citizens prior to the 13th Amendment because each state was its own republic with its own president, which I don't know if you want to get into that. And that president...
Actually, I do. I'm going to cut you off because gets exciting because I want to just get a little bit more exciting here. So what he's about to share with you, do you know every state in America has a president? Do you know that? If you do, don't say anything yet, Bob. Who is the president of Florida? Who is the president of Virginia? Who is the president of Illinois? Who's the president of your state? Do you guys know? This is very interesting.
Anybody answer?
Nope, not the governor. All right, Bob, go ahead and share with them.
So remember, when we're talking about this game, we're talking about the usurpation or the corporation or whatever you want to call it. All the pieces and parts are still there. They're just not either properly charged with their duties, or they're in another place, or they are actually they're just out of position, but they're all there. So this
is crazy.
When I had read all of Thomas Jefferson's writings, it actually totally made sense. So the president, the territorial president of each state, is the primary university president for that state. So the president of the University of Virginia is actually the president of the Virginia territory. The president of the University of Florida is actually the president of the Florida territory. Okay? So, because after everything got done, Thomas Jefferson went back and Thomas Jefferson established the University of Virginia, where Monticello is. The University of Virginia, under the United Nations, is a national heritage site because it is preserved, because it is the territorial first college of the American Republic. The university is the city that came down from heaven, because religion is what gave the regular people in education. And that's why it's the university. That's why the universities have colleges. The university system is the state presidential system for the education system, which I believe is one of the reasons why the federal Department of Education is being demolished, because that puts the university back as the established governing body for that territory to reestablish their fundamental state, their state territorial presidential system for their state republic. So they have to get the Department of Education out of the way so that the states can really take back and split their governorship from their presidential territorial side, returning each state to its republic. So that is where they are. They're the presidents of the primary universities.
It's mind-blowing, isn't it, guys? It's just like, there's so much to learn. We literally have to relearn everything we've learned. That's how sad it is. And it's okay. We're all learning together. I mean, the corruption is all around us. The corruption's worldwide. It's not just here. They were all trying to, and this is why I said Trump, in a lot of my videos, he's brilliant. He's brilliant. He knows how to play chess just right. He's good at what he does, his strategies, his moves. They were trying to get the one world order to go through, where every city throughout the nation partnered with the UN, the United Nations. And this I know for a fact. And he beat them to their own game. He beat them to their own game. And this is what's been lining up for so many decades. It's the whole one world government. And he said, nope, we're taking America back. We will be in control. That's why he took the fiat. We will do the one world currency, not you. We will do the one world order, not you. That's why we are where we are right now. And it's so deep. It goes so deep. And I'm not going to even go there. I try not to confuse people because there's so much to learn that you want to just throw a little out there at a time. But it's not easy to do what he's done. And he didn't just do it when he was sworn in. I mean, this has been going on for years. The military has been in charge since 2017. This has been going on for years and years and years. This whole play has. And that's why a lot of people are like, you're watching a movie. And you really truly are, because it's crazy, but it's true. It is, and there's just so much that comes with this, and a lot of people can't handle the truth. A lot of people can't.
Remember, when you build your entire world on a certain concept, and then all of a sudden that concept starts to disintegrate, that generates a lot of fear. People don't like it when their reality starts coming apart, and learning's painful. Growing is painful.
It is. Have you guys heard President Trump, and I don't mean to interrupt you, Bob, have you guys heard President Trump say central casting? Hey, they'd be great for central casting. Central casting, central casting. You guys do understand what he's saying, right? As they took down Hollywood, during the whole Hollywood takedown, which has been in progress for so long, for what I say on here, but a lot of you that follow this get it and understand it. But even Trump, he has his own Hollywood, which is central casting. Now, this is going to get crazier for all of you. So I'm going to give you a little spin and a twist here. So IDMBD, we're all familiar with that. Before Hollywood became crazy in the last few years and being taken down, Hollywood stars, we would go look them up, right? We would look them up on IDMBD and we would check them out. And we were curious, like, oh, look, they did this movie or that movie. Or if you're an actor, your goal, or if you're a producer or a director or a writer, your goal is to be on that, is specifically only for people in theater, period. Like shows, movies, that's it. You go on there now, go ahead and type in Kamala Harris. Go ahead and type in Biden. Type in Chuck Schumer. It's interesting.
Really?
Yes. Yes. It's insane. All the players are in there. Yes. Yes. AOC. Yes. AOC's on there. They're all in there. And that's why Trump last week, I cracked up at him because he says it. But people, it goes over everyone's head. It seems like, well, not everyone, many people's heads it goes over. And he is like, are you in central casting? Are you in central? That's his gig. Central casting, that's his. You know, he's created this whole deal like, you guys want to play the game? Well, I'll play the game back. So, and this is what this has all been really about. But we won before the inauguration took place. And many of us already saw that, knew that, but all this has to play out. And I'm so glad that Rob is here to really explain what's really going on, because there's a lot. And he does so good at explaining it. He really does. Well, and you know, he's also, you know, a firefighter, paramedic. So I think you've written curriculums too, haven't you, Bob?
Yeah, I've written medical protocol curriculums. I've done, like when the whole Ebola thing happened, I actually developed, it got adopted by the state of Florida's Ebola response platform. So I basically wrote that entire platform.
He's just, you know, Bob, you're very smart in the way you retain information. You just retain it. But, you know, but Bob had to go out and fight it for 5 years. All he did was read, and he just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper and putting this stuff together, which is wonderful. Like many people have. Many of us do this. But it's just great to find another one of us, part of our team, that has other things that he can bring to the table, which he's done. He's done for the people of America, of you putting all that time, putting that trust together. And, you know, speaking of trust, if you don't mind, because I know we're going to wrap it up really soon, but I want to go in and talk about trust a little bit. So he was teaching me some things and understanding what's happened to America, understanding how pretty much we were sold and we're trying to get everything back. And you all are learning this. Every day you're learning something new, and every time you turn your head, there's 50 more things happening. You can't keep up with what's happening right now. You really can't. And I was talking to him, and we were talking about counties throughout the nation. We have to turn every county throughout the nation back onto American soil, and we have to build a trust in the county. And so I had asked him, what? So I was really like, what are you talking about? Explain to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have him explain to you guys what he explained to me, which is very important, because if any of you like to be a leader or like to take a role to help protect the community, you might want to look into this. So I'll let you go ahead and take the floor there, Bob.
This is the foundation of the organization, the website. So basically, our system was built on the assemblages of organizations. These organizations, as they were assembled, they became what's called a trust. Well, a trust divides power so that you can't cede power into one place and basically get control of everything or take over the system and destroy it. So there are three parts to a trust. You have the beneficiary, you have the administrator, and you have the trustee. Well, each county actually has, like, if we say the official record or the land record, that land record is on a trust. It is a trust. It's on a trust. Okay? But the people have to set up their own community trusts. So you go to a county level. When someone sets up a community trust for the community, that is in the private sector, but is a community public trust. Okay, so let's say it that way. Well, everyone's like, how do I not pay taxes on why am I paying taxes on my house? Why am I paying taxes on my house? You're paying taxes on your house because the county counts. They are accountants. They are in profit division, and your house is basically like a port. To get your house moved, it has to be moved into a trust. When you take your house that's paid off and you move it into a trust, it can't be taxed. It can't be taxed because it's in the private sector. And that's why you hear a lot of politicians complain about the private sector. They're always complaining about the private sector. The private sector is where they can't tax, where the foundations are. That's where the trusts are. That's where the NGOs are. And they can't touch them. Okay? So that's our problem. And that's why it only costs $10 to quit claim deed. You go and you basically get done with your house. It's paid off, whatever. You quit claim deed it into a trust. And then it's not part of the monetary system for that county. The only thing that the counties are actually supposed to have jurisdiction over are the business licenses. If you issue a business license in that county, they're supposed to be able to tax that. But they are not supposed to be able to touch private residences. But because we have not set up our community trusts and we don't have administrators for them and we don't have trustees, we have been getting taxed to death. This is where you put your arms. That's why they call them arms. When you want to protect your arms under the Second Amendment, you take those arms and you put them into a community trust. And if anybody ever looks at those arms, all they see is that they're owned by the community. They have no idea who owns any of it. That stuff's all held in private, in your private personal things, your private papers. That's what that's all about. But because we have neglected through our ignorance, because we weren't taught, we weren't educated in this, our trust division side is dormant. We only have the profit side, and it is what is eating us. And it's what's giving them jurisdiction to come to your house and not need a warrant. It's what's giving them jurisdiction to be able to take your stuff and sell it. It's what gives them these jurisdictions is because the Marine Corps, the American people got the Army. That was theirs. They were not supposed to be taken away. And that's exactly what they did. They put every roadblock they could to get them away from us. Because as long as we had the Army and we had the Marine Corps, the government would never get out of control. We lost them, and look what happened.
Yeah. And there's people that saying that they're going to start following. Yes, please follow us. Follow Bob, the author. Follow me. We have been kicked off here so many times. I mean, you were getting huge. I was building huge, and then they'd remove us. And thank God that it's lightened up a little bit. It still does censoring. It's not completely done yet, but it's lightened up a little bit. So that's nice. So thank you everyone for your follows. We really do appreciate it. We're trying to get back up there again. It stinks when you work hard and then all of a sudden you're like banned, poof, gone.
Once we get these courts active, they're not gonna be able to do this stuff anymore without a judicial hearing. So if they want to make a complaint, there's going to be some clown. Oh, I don't care what you feel. Can you prove it to a line of people in a jury and they agree with you? Yes or no?
So Tweety just asked a question, and that's a great question. How do I get out of paying my property taxes? So here's the thing. This is my opinion by what I've been watching and following and talking to some people. You might want to, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I know things are changing. And March is just next month is a big month. And a lot of things are coming into play. I would recommend talking to your accountant and just getting their advice on what they think. Bob?
Well, uh, listen, there's a couple questions. Number one, if your property has a mortgage on it through the federal government, you're going to have to wait for the courts to come online. You're kind of in a jam situation, so you're just going to have to hold out because there's going to be a lot of liquefied U.S. debt that's going to be flooded into the market. And I'm not going to get into the whole what U.S. debt is. Like, we won't go there tonight. We'll do that on another one. But there's going to be a lot of liquefied debt that's going to get into the system because there's basically the American people have been absent for a very long time, and we have a savings account, and we have an entire nation to really put back together. So there's going to be a lot of work. There's going to be a lot of opportunities. There's going to be a lot of jobs. There's going to be missions to go to places and build. We have to build new courthouses and all this stuff to put the republic back together. And it's not only going to be just like, oh, it's great, like I have it. It's going to be like, I'm headed to Kansas to build a courthouse in this community because they need one because we have laws now and we have to have a place to practice those laws. So, and a lot of that stuff is going to come online.
His website again is ourunitedrepublic.com. We are also doing a podcast as well. You'll find us on social media. We just started the podcast. We got asked as well. We're trying to do a lot of different stuff, but I don't have the website up yet for the podcast. But his website for all his information, which is I highly recommend you go to and really read. And he has a book that he's given out for free as well. That's very, that'll really help you a lot with a lot of the questions you have. I'd highly recommend you go to that website. You're getting that. You just went live yesterday, and your website's like blowing up, Bob.
Yeah, I think there's. So yeah, it's taking, and it's listen. This thing is a process. It's not me. It's not me. It's not even my website. Actually, it's the beneficiaries of the organization that I represent. I'm their international lawyer and their ordained minister. I represent them. They own it.
Our United Republic. Ourunitedrepublic.com.
Yep.
And the podcast is America, the Awakening. America, the Awakening. We're on pretty much all the social media platforms now. So I know if you follow me, you go under my name here on TikTok, I have our first episode out. You can click on that link on YouTube. You can go on YouTube. We're on Rumble. We're on Facebook. We're on X under America, the Awakening. And you can see our some of our trailers and our first episode that we just put out, and we have been making them, and they're going to be coming out. And another one goes out tomorrow, and then I think another one goes out on Tuesday. And Bob and I are talking about doing more lives. Bob, you've explained it well tonight. I mean, you've done a great job of explaining it. And for those that are asking about these taxes, I said this earlier today and tonight. Trump's kind of hinted out there, Elon Musk put it out there, that they are suggesting that we get a very big tax refund. And I believe we will. I believe we're going to be very shocked on what they're about to do for us because we've been cheated for so long.
Looking at the strategy of how things are lining up, I would say that the easiest way to kind of stabilize the system is to do a big chunk tax refund that'll kind of be able to float out until some of the other systems come online and they start to get up and running. So it'll kind of stretch it out for people. So it makes sense that they're going to do like a healthy size tax return to facilitate that stretch while they're in transition. That would make sense to me.
And the property taxes, you are right. People are talking about the property taxes. So from my understanding, property taxes is actually when you pay taxes and you give it to the government, it's like you're leasing your property to the government.
Because it's a business. It is a business. Technically, it's a port. Technically, it's a port. We went through this whole thing, remember, with the seas and the rivers and the roads, and so things are not how you believe. Your house, when it's in the public, when you can look at your house on the public property record, that means that that house is considered a business or a liquefied asset port. When it's not on the property record, it's in the private sector, then it's in a trust. So that's the difference. So that's one of the problems we have. If you don't have a mortgage on your property should be on the other side in the private sector. So,
but all that is coming. That's why March can't get here soon enough. Because there's so much going to be taking place, and it's a lot. It really is. I think what we are having a problem with is the lies. Just like the one thing that stands out to me that they talked about when they were going through all the monies and the money's being spent, is it's sick just to see all this billions of dollars to the craziest stuff I've ever seen was the shrimp. Literally, I think it was $3 million. I'll share this. $3 million for a shrimp. You know, the shrimp that you eat, the bottom feeders in the water. To see, you ready? How fast it can run on a treadmill. How fast the shrimp can run on a treadmill. $3 million. Now, I said, come on. Really? I'm like, people can't see what they are doing, then I don't know what to tell you. It's like they ran out of ways to see how they're going to spend their money. So they got delusional to create the most asinine things that they could of where they're giving that, who they're actually giving that $3 million to. But we're going to say that we're using it for a shrimp to watch how fast he runs on a treadmill. Come on.
When you have no fear.
That's right, El Sapo. That's right.
Look, because it doesn't matter, because they've never been able to look. You can just put it on people, whatever, and there's so much money, it's frivolous. Like, it doesn't matter. It's not your money, and there's unlimited amounts of it.
Well, Bear North Up. Yes, taxes are voluntary. Yes, but not everybody knows that. And see, and this is what I loved about President Trump. And I said this in the very beginning. See, you're going to get me started there, Bear, because you really don't know who I am. So President Donald Trump did everything brilliantly. He made each and every person tell it off their own tongue. Not just him. He made them tell you the truth of the lies that they've done to all the American people. Okay? So they had to tell you that we voluntarily started paying our taxes when we signed the form. That's sick and pure evil. They did come out and confess it off their own tongue 2 weeks ago. But no, not everyone knew this, Bear. Just recently, people are making discoveries because the truth and the facts are coming out and they can't cover it up anymore. So yes, we have been lied to, and we have so-called voluntarily paid the taxes. And the question was, and why do you go to jail when you don't pay your taxes? Well, their reasoning for that was because there are consequences, Bear, if you don't follow their law. Is why we call it lawfare, because it's not under the Constitution, is because you voluntarily signed the form, they want to enforce you because you voluntarily said you would do it. So you have consequences for that. They were just helping you to fulfill what you said you would do. That's what they said. You can go back and watch all of it. So
one of the big problems is a U.S. citizen, because the federal government cannot talk to human beings. They can only talk to companies and businesses. So when you're a U.S. citizen, you're a corporation, which means you are operating in the profit sector. American individuals get to choose whether they don't pay taxes.
Rightly
But if
so.
you're an American individual, you are subject to their system. And the way that you're an American individual is that you have to have an ITIN number. You have an ITIN number, then you're an American individual. Then you are a foreign American corporation to the federal government. So think about this. To the federal government, if you have an ITIN number, which is an individual tax ID number, you are a foreign American corporation. Foreign. Because America is foreign to the federal government. That's why they call it foreign policy. That's why they call it foreign affairs. That's why they spend so much time on foreign affairs. Because that's the detachment. Federal government is completely foreign to America. They're alien to us.